Sir, am I audible?
Yes, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Namaste, sir. Chitnis, sir. Namaskar. Namaskar, sir. Chitnis, sir. Namaskar. Hello. Namaskar.
Yes, sir.
Chitnis, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Pandey, sir.
Hello. Good evening, Pandey, sir. Madam, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, I'm keeping my video off as I'm driving, so kindly allow.
No worries, sir. Happy to see you join.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jitnesh sir. Very good evening.
Good evening, Pandey sir. Good to
Good
see you.
evening, sir. Good evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Sector sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Subhash is there. Subhash, are you there?
So no, so Subhash sir is not there.
So, guest will be joining us.
Yes, sir, he'll be joining shortly.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what time should we start?
Let a guest join first.
Yes, sir.
The moment he joins, we will start.
That's correct. Sector sir, am I
Hello.
audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, you are audible.
You are also clear.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir, we start. Namaste, hello and good evening to all present here. I, Dr. Aarti Shastri, welcome you wholeheartedly on behalf of Dr. Vishwanath Karad, MIT World Peace University, Pune, to the Leadership Webinar Series 2021. We are extremely delighted to announce that today we have an important session by a very eminent personality, Shri Guru Charan Das Ji, on making a life versus making a living. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Guru Charan Das Ji is an erudite scholar from Harvard Business School and is a Bharat Asmita awardee. We all know for his contribution through his writing on Indian sustainable economy. During this unprecedented time, every one of us has witnessed many challenges, and this webinar series is one designing for all of us to develop leadership opportunities to withstand such challenges. To begin today's session, I would now like to request all the esteemed guests to kindly raise for the national song. I request my technical team to play the national song. Thank you, technical team. Now, to ignite our minds and to enhance our focus, to make ourselves more accommodative and receptive, I request all the dignitaries on the dais and my friends of the dais to join their hands together for the World Peace Prayer, a prayer which does not discriminate any individual beliefs or any caste, creed, or religion, a prayer which amalgamates all of us together to blend us to think of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the entire universe is one family. I request my technical team to play the World Peace Prayer.
प्रतिपाद्या जय जय स्वसंवेद्या आत्मरूपा देवातुति गणेषु सकलार्थमति प्रकाशु म्हणे निवृत्तिदासु अवधारी गोदी गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Thank you, technical team. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have Shri Guru Charan Das Ji an author and public intellect who is best known for his much acclaimed book, Trilogy of Classical Indian Goals of Life. His book, Indian Unbound, was the first of its kind on earth or material well-being, which offers a personal account of India's recent social and economical rise. His book, The Difficulty of Being Good, talks about dharma, moral well-being, illustrates our day-to-day moral dilemma through the meditation of epic Mahabharata. Karma, the riddle of desire, teaches how to cherish desires in order to live a rich and flourishing life. Shri Guru Charan Das Ji is a graduate in philosophy with honors from Harvard University and later attended Harvard Business School, where he is featured in 3 case studies. We feel blessed to have him with us. I request Dr. Bhanudas Kuchekar Sir, Dean, Faculty of Pharmacy, MIT World Peace University, to welcome Shri Guru Charan Das Ji. Over to you, Kuchekar Sir. Sir. Kuchekar Sir, you are
Yeah,
on mute. Yes, sir.
okay. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, one and all. Honorable Professor Dr. Vishwanath D. Karad Sir, UNESCO Chairholder, Founder and Chief Patron, MIAS MIT, Pune, and President MIT World Peace University. Honorable Sri Rahul Karad Sir, presently leading the vast Myers MIT group of institutions as the Managing Trustee and Executive President, also Executive President of MIT World Peace University, Pune. Honorable Eminent Speaker, Sri Guru Charan Das Ji, renowned author, thought leader, commentator, and public intellectual. Honorable Professor Dr. R.M. Chitnis, Acting Vice Chancellor. Honorable Professor Dr. Milind Pandey, Pro Vice Chancellor, MIT World Peace University. Deans, directors, faculty, staff, and my participant friends. It gives me really an immense pleasure to welcome you all for this today's webinar under Webinar Lecture Series 2021 with the theme Today's COVID Challenge and Tomorrow's Leadership Opportunities on a topic, Making a Life versus Making a Living. Also, I welcome today's eminent speaker, Honorable Guru Charan Das Ji, for this webinar. Friends, Maharashtra Academy of Engineering and Educational Research, MIT Group of Institutions, Pune, was established in 1983 by the visionary educationist, Professor Dr. Vishwanath D. Karad Sir, with the vision of holistic peace education to revolutionize the education scenario in Maharashtra and the country and provide quality education to the youth. MIT Group of Institutions has now 4 universities. One, Dr. Vishwanath Karad, MIT World Peace University, popularly known as MIT WPU, standing on 4 pillars of technology, research, social innovation, and partnership. This is the flagship university of Myers MIT Group of Institutions. Second university, MIT Art, Design and Technology University at Loni Kalbur, Pune. Third, Avantika University at Ujjain, Madhya Pradesh. And fourth university, MIT University in Meghalaya at Shillong. Thus, MIT Group of Institutions has grown exponentially and has made a strong impact in the field of education throughout the country. The important feature today of MIT is World Peace Dome. It is the biggest dome in the world with the height of 263 feet and a diameter of 160 feet. It comprises of World Peace Prayer Hall and library. The inside sitting area is about 20,000 square feet with the sitting capacity of 3,000. We are going to see the short film shortly on this World Peace Dome. Coming to this series of webinar lecture series 2021 is an excellent seed thought of our Executive President, Honorable Rahul Karad sir. He thought, my faculty, my staff should not be demotivated, depressed, frustrated due to the horrible COVID or pandemic situation. Hence, he started this activity from 12th June 2021 with a central theme of today's COVID challenges and tomorrow's leadership opportunities, with the great aim to enrich our staff and faculty and to keep their spirit high and motivated. This webinar series is a continuous activity scheduled on the 2nd and 4th Saturdays of every month. Wide range of experts have addressed this webinar lecture series on various topics. Sri Ramaji Raghavan, social innovator and entrepreneur, founder and chairman, Agastya International Foundation, has addressed the first webinar. Similarly, Dr. Jaiprakash Narayan, Dr. Sekhar Mande, Dr. Milind Kamble, Sri Sudhindra Kulkarni, Dr. Meera Borgaonkar. And today is the seventh webinar. Eminent speaker, Honorable Guru Charan Das Ji, is going to throw a light on a topic, making a life versus making a living. Friends, say the modern society's definition of success is money, is name and fame, is a power. That is making a living. But the words happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment, passion, and joy do not appear to be associated with this concept of making a living. Hence, it is important to focus on making a life where happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment, passion, and joy appear to be associated with. This is the importance of today's topic. With this, I once again welcome all of you, and especially Honorable Guru Charan Das Ji. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Madam, you are on mute. Unmuted.
Thank you so much, Kuchekar sir. Now, I request our beloved Professor R.M. Chitnis sir to address the gathering. Acting Vice Chancellor, MIT WPU University, for this kind gathering.
Namaskar to all of. Good evening, everyone. While my senior colleague, Dr. Kuchekar sir, has already given a welcome address for our distinguished guest, Shri Guru Charan Das Ji, I once again extend hearty and warm welcome to Shri Guru Charan Das. On behalf of Dr. Vishwanath Karad, on behalf of Rahul V. Karad, who could not able to attend it today as he is traveling, and all of you, those who are present in this august gathering. Dear all, we are really lucky to have Shri Guru Charan Das Ji who is an eminent speaker in our lecture series based on today's COVID challenge and tomorrow's leadership opportunities. His today's talk on making life versus making living will surely be a tremendous learning experience for all of us to look at life in a different perspective altogether. Shri Gurucharan Das Ji is a prolific personality who has keen interest as well as commendable expertise in numerous domains. From being a person who is, in his own words, luckily missed doing engineering in MIT, LAB Boston, who successfully mastered a thoughtful subject of philosophy from Harvard University and established himself later as equally successful corporate leader, management guru, and at the same time, a very acclaimed writer. Maybe during his speech, he will share anecdote how from Ashok Kumar he became Gurucharan Das Ji. We all agree, as Shri Gurucharan Das Ji says, parents insist on pursuing degrees which will offer job or settle their children. But Honorable Gurucharan Das Ji opted for a different path, which is inspiring to many of us. Let me share further that the life journey of Honorable Founder, President of MIRS is Dr. Vishwanath Karad sir, is also an inspiring story. He believed in making life than making living. Coming from a humble family of a farmer in a small town in the region of Marathwada, Maharashtra, took a toiling efforts to complete education in very prestigious college, Government College of Engineering, COEP, Pune, and further became a professor of thermodynamics in the same alma mater. He could have lived a cozy life, but in midlife, he didn't have a midlife crisis. He resigned from that job and created or established Maharashtra Institute of Technology way back in 1983 to serve students who were not able to get engineering seats due to limited seats available in Maharashtra. That particular MIRS is a tree sheltering thousands of students, staff under its care today. Let me go ahead with the story. The glorious journey, sir, of legacy of MIRS, which is nearly of 4 decades, of making pioneering efforts in making life, is well taken ahead by Honorable Rahul V. Karad sir. For the first time in our country, Rahul Karad sir founded Bharatiya Chhatra Sansad, or Indian Students Parliament. It's a moment for students, leaders, to become a responsible citizens, upholding constitutional values, with a quest of doing much more for every section of society. Shri Rahul Karad sir went on to establish National Teachers Congress for academic fraternity, Sarpancha Parishad for rural upgradation, National Women Parliament, and so many other initiatives, such as a COVID challenge series. And Shri Gurucharan Das Ji, on platform of MIT World Peace University, is a very befitting and complementary to this. Sir, we are very, very inquisitive to know and learn from you. As a professors, should we focus on skill, attitude, or intelligence only while developing our students? Sir, we would be very, very inquisitive further to know from you how to identify real interest or passion or strength of the students. And sir, guide us how to convince parents to shift their focus from job or settlement after completing the degree to the passion and thoughtful making of life. Dear all, like you all, I am equally eager to listen to his words and wisdom and experience. Sir, once again, welcome, sir. And thank you for gracing this occasion today. Thank you so much. With this, I hand over to Professor Shastri.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words. Friends, without further ado, I request my technical team to kindly relay the film on Sri Guru Charan Das Ji.
Gurcharan Das is an author, public intellectual, and management guru. He has graduated in philosophy with honors from Harvard University and later attended Harvard Business School, where he is featured in 3 case studies. He was CEO of Procter & Gamble India and Managing Director, Procter & Gamble Worldwide, before he became a full-time writer. He writes a regular column for the Times of India and 5 Indian language papers and contributes to the Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, and Foreign Affairs. Gurcharan Das is best known for a much acclaimed trilogy on the classical Indian goals of life: India Unbound, The Difficulty of Being Good, and Calm, The Riddle of Desire. His other books include India Grows at Night, A Liberal Case for a Strong State, which was on the Financial Times Best Books for 2013, a novel, A Fine Family, a book of essays, The Elephant Paradigm, and an anthology, 3 plays. He is editing for Penguin, a 15-volume history series, The Story of Indian Business. We are honored to welcome Gurcharan Das to MIT World Peace University.
Thank you, technical team. May I now request Sri Guru Charan Das Ji to enlighten us by his words of wisdom on making a life versus making a living. Over to you, sir.
Sirji, you are on mute.
Is that okay? Can you
Yes,
hear
sir.
me?
Yes,
Absolutely all right.
All right.
eager to hear you, sir.
So, Dr. Chitnis, as well as your technical team, have been very generous in introducing me. And I will quickly correct one thought in it, which relates to my being a management guru. Let me tell you my idea of such a guru. I believe it stands for good at understanding, GU, but relatively useless, RU. But the name Guru, the word Guru is also in my name, so that presents a problem. But it wasn't always so. As Dr. Chitnis mentioned, that I used to be called Ashok Kumar until the age of 3. But my grandmother suspected that my mother had given me that name because she thought that my mother was secretly in love with a Bollywood actor named Ashok Kumar. So she took me to her guru and she placed me at his feet and she said to the guru, give this boy a name. And so the guru saw me at his feet and he said, well, we can only call him Guru Charan Das. So overnight, at the age of 3, I was transformed from Ashok Kumar, which is the Prince of Happiness, to the humble servant of the feet of the Guru. Now, you might think that that is a real come down in the world, but I think the Guru had different ideas. For the Guru, he felt I needed to learn humility. So that was a good starting point. But humility didn't mean in his eyes lack of ambition. There was huge, fierce ambition in his idea of humility. Essentially, I feel the notion that he had of humility was to take your work seriously, but not yourself too seriously. And so actually, I have over the years now met many leaders, business leaders, both and political leaders. And they all had 3 qualities in common. One was not intelligence, but determination, willpower, almost stubborn in their conviction. The second quality, again, was not intelligence, but what the Guru thought of as humility. And it's the same virtue, by the way, that Krishna preached to Arjun on the battlefield at Kurukshetra as karma yoga or nishkam karma. And the third quality I found was integrity. And integrity is something that you see in action. If someone is talking too much about integrity, you should become a little suspicious about that person. Anyway, I'm going to speak to you today about the difference between making a living and making a life. And it's also something that I learned very early from my parents, because my parents, my mother, with her middle class insecurities, wanted to make sure I made a living. So she was always reminding me about that. But my father was a mystical man, a spiritual man, open to living a certain kind of life. He was an engineer. We were a middle class family. And my father used to meditate for 2 hours a day. And he was also very open-minded about everything. Anyway, when I was 4 years old in kindergarten, that's my first memory, I came home with a report card in my hand. And I was, 4-year-old, excitedly showing it to my mother. And she asked the question, "Did you stand first?" My father, who was watching me from a distance at the back, said to my mother, "That was the wrong question. You should have asked him, how much is he enjoying school? What does he like in school? What, as Dr. Chitnis was saying, what passion did he have?" Because frankly, we are not all like Mozart. Mozart, the music composer, knew at the age of 3 that he was a musical genius. And at the age of 5, he had written his first symphony. Most of us basically stumble through life and hope that we stumble onto something that we like. And even when we get older, we haven't found it. And so I'm going to tell you today a couple of stories. One quickly is my own quest for making a life, my story. And the other is a story of a young Maharashtrian who worked in my company and from whom I learned more than I learned at the Harvard Business School. So let us begin. So I was telling you about my coming home and with this report card. So I went through school, and my mother kept reminding me to study hard, etc. And my father always was interested in finding out what I enjoyed, what I liked. I was lucky when I finished school. It was very unusual in those days, but I was very lucky. I got a scholarship to go to Harvard to do my undergraduate studies. Nowadays, a lot more people do that, but in those days it was very rare. Anyway, I arrived at Harvard and they told me, "What do you want to study?" And I said, well, I thought of my mother and I said, engineering. My father was an engineer. And they said, you've come to the wrong school. There's another school down the river called MIT, not your Maharashtra Institute of Technology. That was Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They said you'll get a better engineering education there than you'll get at Harvard. Anyway, very quickly, I forgot my mother's sort of desire and lesson, and I got caught in the romance of the liberal education. Now, a liberal education in America especially allows you to study anything you want. So what I did, I embraced that ideal. I studied economics, I studied history, I studied philosophy, I studied biology, I studied Russian literature, Greek tragedy, Chinese ceramics, Sanskrit. I studied 2 years of Sanskrit at Harvard for one of the great scholars in the world at the time. Anyway, by the time I reached my final year, even Harvard was getting tired of my jumping around in all these classes. And so they said, now you have to declare your field of concentration, your major. And so I chose philosophy. And I wrote my thesis in philosophy. And so I graduated in philosophy. And again, I was lucky, I got a scholarship to go to Oxford to do a PhD in philosophy. And I came home that summer, and my mother very proudly showed me to her friends, oh, my son, he's from Harvard, and now he's going to Oxford and all that. And I love that, you know, being made much of by her. But she was in for a shock, because one day when I was at home in Chandigarh, I asked myself, did I want to spend the rest of my life at that stratosphere of abstract thought? No. I felt I wanted a life of action, not merely a life of thought. And I wasn't keen. The idea of an academic career, I mean, I was kind of being swept into it. I don't think I wanted it. Anyway, I thought I would experiment, try something new. And meantime, my mother got very worried. She said she had an unemployed son at home suddenly, and her neighbor used to needle her every day, asking, Thoda munda ki kar raha hai? What is your boy doing? And she would say, I don't know. And so to save her embarrassment, I answered an advertisement in the Times of India, which asked for trainees by a company which made Vicks Vapor Rub. And so I said, we'll try that. And overnight, from the ivy-covered halls at Harvard, I was walking in the dusty bazaars of India with a bag, going from chemist shop to chemist shop, selling Vicks to pharmacies and chemists. But, you know, I rather like the rough and tumble of the business life. And so, like the man who came to dinner, I stayed on instead of moving to something else. And I stayed on, but at the same time, I did not want to lose touch with my other passion, the world of ideas and thought. And so I kept reading on weekends. And then after reading for a few years, I said, now it's time that I give back. So I decided I'd write something. And so I got a second hat. So Monday to Friday, I wore the hat of a business executive. And Saturday and Sunday, I wore the hat of a writer. And that's how I lived for the next 25 years. I became head of this company. That company was bought worldwide by Procter & Gamble. So I became the head of Procter & Gamble in India. And then they sent me to world headquarters as managing director for global strategy. And one day, I was in my late 40s, 1940s, and 40s, not 1940s. I was looking at the market share of our brands as the head of global strategy. That was something that was needed. And I see these Nielsen figures, and I used to see the shares of Pampers, Tide, Ariel, Pantene, Oil of Olay, Vicks, many, many products they had, Pringles and Gillette blades and so on, all good products. But I looked out the window like I'm doing right now, and I said, is this all there is to life? And that day I had read in that the reforms had suddenly been announced in India. This was 1991. And I felt this was our real Azadi, that our Azadi had not come in 1947. We'd got our political independence. But immediately that, we had got enslaved and we had lost our Azadi to socialism, to the license Raj. So 1991 was big, big news. I was very excited. I wanted to go back home. So I came back to my, when I came to my wife, she saw I was troubled, and I was just 50 years old, and I said, I want to leave. And she said, but the retirement age is 65. And she said, how are we going to manage if you quit? I mean, she was thinking of the monthly check that I got, salary. And so I had to sit down and explain to her that we had so much savings. We had saved already in 2-3 years enough money. And so I said that, now maybe our standard of living won't go up, but we'll try not to make it go down too much. Anyway, she was a good sport, and I quit my job and came back to become a full-time writer. Now, I have illustrated to you my story of how I went and how I decided to make a life under the influence of my father. My father applauded the idea that I had become a weekend writer. And I wrote plays, I wrote a novel. The plays were performed in Bombay, Al-Padamsi, Al-Qazi in Delhi, others. And also in England, BBC did my play off Broadway. So I got a lot of practice. And over 25 years as a weekend writer, I wrote a novel. And with this practice, I had got the confidence at 50 to chuck up my job and had the confidence to write. And the first thing I did was to start defending the reforms, because the leftists in India, plus the left wing of the Congress party, were totally opposed to it. They wanted those reforms to be removed. So I put myself into that role as a cheerleader for the reforms. And I then, for next 25 years, wrote these books, participated in nation building, and created a life of my own. So my story is a story of how, in my way, with wearing two hats, the important thing was many of us have a hobby. But what is important is that you must take your hobby seriously. As seriously, if you want your Monday to Friday job you must take your Saturday and Sunday job as seriously. And that, I think, was very important for me. Let me now change direction. And let me tell you about a person who made a life in his job, in his weekday job. He didn't have two hats. He wore one hat. But what a hat he wore. So this is a story of a person who was a metric pass. He was from Akola district in Maharashtra. He came to our company as an assistant security guard for the night shift. And he was such a dehati, he didn't know much any English, hardly any English, that he used to pronounce the name of the company also as Procter and Gamble. His name was Gamble and the company was Procter and Gamble. Anyway, we knew immediately that this guy was very different and very special because he was like a child and he had a curiosity about everything. So the first day he discovers the coffee making machine and learns to make coffee. And then he's in his rounds, going round and round, you know, security guard. He also made coffee, served it to people around, and both became friendly, and everybody enjoyed getting coffee. Somebody taught him a little bit, less sugar, more milk, etc., etc. Then he discovered the tea machine, and he made the tea so he could serve both. Then he discovered the telex machine. Although he didn't know English, but he was at night teaching himself English. And within a month or so, he was sending simple telexes on the telex machine. He loved sitting and working on the gadgets. Similarly, he learned the fax. In those days, we had telexes and faxes. So we learned the fax machine. Then he learned to be the operator of telephone. In those days, your operator used to put those, you know, wires inside, and so he was answering phones in his sort of tutti-frutti English, and so here he was. Everything, he was in charge. That within a few months, if you needed anything in the office in the evening, you said, ask Kamble, and it got done. I needed to, one day, I was the head of the company, I needed to contact the finance director, and he had left. So I was in a panic. So I asked somebody, they said, ask Kamble. So sure enough, Kamble found out that the finance director was not in Bombay. He had gone to Delhi. He found out that he was staying at Ashoka Hotel. He found out the room number, and within 5 minutes, he connected me there. I was impressed. And this went on and went on that to the point where, one other little episode took place. And that was that one day he found a wallet, a men's wallet, a purse, which somebody had dropped in the passage outside the men's room. And he saw there was a lot of money in it. He brought it to me. We checked inside. There was name of belonged to a senior manager. And Kamble said, don't worry. He told me, you become the security guard now for 1 hour. I'll go to Bandra and in a taxi, and I'll deliver this money to that man because he'll be very worried. It's a lot of money. So Kamble, off he went. And very luckily, Kamble arrived. There was that money. I mean, the husband and wife were so happy to see Kamble because that money was the advance on a flat that they were going to pay to a seller who was coming to their house within the next hour. So their life was saved, but he swore them to secrecy. He says, don't tell them that it was me. And even me, when he came back, he says, let's keep it quiet, story like that. Anyway, so soon our daytime telephone operator had to go, she was having a baby, and she had to go on maternity leave. So Kamble went to the personnel manager, and he told the personnel manager, look, I'm tired of working at night. Give me a chance. I'll be your temporary telephone operator until she comes back, and then I'll go back to my job. So the personnel fellow said, Kamble, are you crazy? We are a multinational company and we get calls from around the world. You don't even know how to pronounce the name of our company and hardly know any English. How can you be the telephone operator? So poor Kamble, with a long face, went away. But I heard about it through the grapevine, and I went to the personnel guy and I said, look, let's give him a chance. Let's try him out for a couple of days. Meantime, have a backup option ready if Kamble doesn't work out. And so the personnel guy agreed. And the next day, Kamble was there, proudly sitting in the booth of the telephone operator. And the following day, I got a phone call from our lawyers, Crawford Bailey. And the lawyer said, do you have a new ePPX system? I said, why? He says, well, you know, for the last 2 days, your phone has been answered promptly on the first or the second ring. Whereas before, it used to go ring for 5, 6 times before the operator picked it up. So I went to Kamble that evening on my way home. And I said, Kamble, why do you answer the phone so quickly? And he gave an answer that totally demolished me. He said, there may be a customer calling to give an order. And our company, I don't want the company to lose business. I don't think our marketing director could have given such a good answer. Anyway, this tells you that this guy, another time, you know, he was talking on the phone in Marathi to a lady, explaining to her, her child must have been having a cold or something. And he was explaining to her how to rub Vicks Vapor Rub on the child and, you know, use steam treatment. So I was really, anyway, it was not just me. Kamble's attitude was infectious. The whole office seemed to respond to this positive quality in him. And suddenly the office became a fun place. Kamble knew carom board. So he brought a carom board one day to the office and put it in the lunchroom. And during lunch hour, people started playing carom. And then more carom boards came. And we were having a carom tournament at lunch hour. And so this is the kind of person that he was, you know. And so let me just, I mean, here was a guy, I think, who was making a life. He was making a life while he was making a living. And let us analyze how. The most important quality, as I told you, was a curiosity, a childlike curiosity. He was an ability to have fun, almost like our gods, Krishna. You know, Krishna Leela, the Makhan Chor. And you know, in Maharashtra, all about that. You know, we've just finished Ganesh Chaturthi. But Krishna, that notion of Leela, that our gods, when they're creating the world, have the fun. Similarly, he, like a child, that when it's raining, a child, everybody else carries an umbrella, and it's a puddle on the road. All the adults go around the puddle. The child comes and he jumps into the puddle. Well, that's what Kamble was doing. He was jumping into the puddle and having fun. So he had created, through all this interest in technology and all, every day for him was a new day. The second quality he had was that determination. He was determined to succeed. He was hungry, when he came to us. And overnight, he started taking lessons. He learned English. And because he learned English, we saw potential in him. And he got promoted. Then he got promoted again. And then he got promoted again. And so this guy was, third quality he had was he had a bias for action. It wasn't just thought, like the MBAs of today. They will produce a fine report. But in terms of action, many of them are lacking. And from Kamble, I learned that execution in your work is more important even than strategy. Anyone can have an idea, but very few can execute that idea. The other quality in him was a desire for service. Anyone who needed anything, we said, ask Kamble. And everybody went to him. And everybody was happy, satisfied. And this service, is very important in business. The reason is that there are only three ways to create competitive advantage. You can do it through lower cost, lower price. You can do it through superior products. And you can do it through superior service. Now, if you cut your price, those of you who studied finance know that it goes down to the bottom line. Superior products means spending a lot in R&D, but service is free. And so, shouldn't we hire Kambles in our companies? Shouldn't MIT also, its business school, be teaching about service and how to get competitive advantage through attitude rather than only book knowledge? And I will give you an example. A few years ago, on my wife's birthday, I went to Lajpat Nagar market in Delhi. And I went to buy a sari for her. So I asked the sariwala to show me some saris. And like a typical sariwala, he started bringing out than after than from the shelves, like those books. They kept tumbling down. And before I realized it, he had shown me 40 saris and I was totally confused. And I bought 3 instead of 1. So he was successful. He had sold 3 saris. A few months later, I went to London for a board meeting and I dropped something on a white shirt like this one, only it had a proper collar and I was wearing a tie. I was looking very English. And so now we had an important meeting with our most important customer in the afternoon. So I couldn't have a stain on my shirt. So I ran to Bond Street and asked the girl at the counter to give me a shirt. She measured my collar, and on my collar size, she gave me 3 shirts. I remembered the sariwala. So I said, can I see some more? She said, first, will you buy one of these? I said, are you crazy, madam? I said, can I speak to your supervisor? I told her, the supervisor, this woman, as soon as she opens her mouth, she loses you a customer. And I told her the saris wala story. And so I realized how important, because frankly, products in terms of prices, etc., are not that much different. Technology also, everybody catches up. But service is what differentiates companies. Anyway, so this is a lesson from Kamble. And the other point, of course, was, as I talked about, in integrity. Integrity, the way that story about the purse. But the ending of the story was important because it was not just integrity, it was also humility. He did not want to advertise what he had done. So here was a man who did his job, what he had to do, but he didn't really care who got the credit. But the credit kept coming to him. He kept getting promoted and promoted. And so he was a Nishkam Karmi. He practiced Karma Yoga. And that's why he kept getting promoted. And one day he became a director of this company, somebody who didn't know any English, who wasn't even a graduate in the company, which is a tribute not only to Kamble, but also to the company, because it recognized an outstanding individual. So here's another example, and I'm coming to the end, that here's an example of making a life at your job. And that, what does that mean? That means loving the work you do. As Dr. Chitnis was asking me, now, where do you get this passion that he was showing? Where do you get that passion? And I think it's the duty of parents, a person like my father in this case, or teachers, whose job it is to uncover your passion. Now, of course, it's your individual's responsibility too. But the fact is that there are only two ways to happiness in my book. One is to love the work you do, and two is to love the person you live with. Now, I've been talking about how you love the work you do. As to loving the person you live with, you have to read my last book, Karma, The Riddle of Desire. That's my commercial break. So the commercial's over now. Anyway, the thing here is that what Kamble is teaching us is the importance of living lightly. There's a wonderful word that Patanjali uses in the Yoga Sutras, Lakhima. It's one of the siddhis that he talks about, which is lightness. Live lightly, not like a feather, but like a bird, so you can fly away. And as you prepare yourself to live in the post-COVID world, remember that. Remember also what the Guru meant, that take your work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. And that really is sort of my last thought for you. And now, if we have some time for questions, which I think we do, it's now 5 o'clock. So right on time, I finished. And I think about 10 minutes, if you like, we can have a Q&A if there's anyone who has a question to ask.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful description of life. The way you look towards life is absolutely different than others do. And that is how it makes a different writer, excluding writer like you. Thank you very much, sir, for enriching us with your thoughts. I am very sure that it has triggered the minds of all present here. Every word of yours was so powerful that I believe that all this, what we are going to take from here for this particular session, is going to last with us forever. I request all those present here to ask for questions.
So you'll have to read out the question for me.
Yes, sir.
If it's all right. Either you may have, they might be there in the chat box or the Q&A.
Yes.
So you read it out and I'll be happy to answer it.
Sir, there is a question from Datta Dange sir. He asked, you have addressed 3 Panchasutras, Purusharthas. What is about moksha?
Okay, that's a very good question. Because yes, my first 3 books, Artha, Dharma, Kama, India Unbound, Difficulty of Being Good, and Kama, the Riddle of Desire. These are about the first 3 Purusharthas. And the 4th, Moksha. Now, I thought moksha was first when I thought about it. I thought my father would be better equipped because he was a mystic, he was a spiritual person. In my case, I don't know if there is an afterlife. I don't know if there is God. I don't know if there is a soul. Because I don't have that gift to know those things, I thought I have been thinking about moksha. I'm writing, by the way, my 4th book. It will become a trilogy, will become a quartet. And the 4th book is addressing the question of moksha. But it is addressing it very much as Jivan Mukti, as achieving freedom in this life. And it goes back to the original meaning. The original meaning of moksha in Sanskrit. It didn't have that spiritual meaning. The original meaning meant just liberation, freedom. So it's the writers in the ancient times described a horse without a harness as moksha. The horse has moksha. A pearl who comes out of the oyster shell is moksha. If you pay your debts, that means you have mukti. Mukti ho gayi bhai. If you are a prisoner in a jail and you come out of jail, you feel freedom. That is moksha. So that is the original meaning of moksha. Only later, much later. Originally, we had 3 varga. 3 varga was the 3 Purusharthas. They were not 4. Only much later, 1,000 years later, came, and particularly after Shankara, did they become the whole moksha idea became a big spiritual idea. Anyway, so I'm writing the story of that. I'm writing that story of being free, how to live like a bird, how to be light, live lightly. You know, that is the story that I'm writing.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, there is second question by Surabhi Rajdar Madam. How can organization identify natural Kambles in their organization?
Well, the thing to do is to first, it's much easier to teach people skills, but much harder to teach them attitudes. So first of all, the mantra of every company should be to hire people on attitude and train them in skill. Because you can't change attitudes so easily. And so the way to do it is to, first of all, so if you hire Kambles, that's the starting point. All companies make a mistake. When they do interviews, they ask the person, kya janta hai? What does he know? Of course, if he has graduated from IIT, IIM, MIT, all these places, he knows, she knows. But what you want to find out in the interview, don't ask what the person knows. Ask the person how he solves his problems. What he does, how he faces adversity, Those are the things we should ask to know. And that is the way to uncover attitude. And also you can train people a little bit, but the attitudes are hard to change. So better to recruit the right people.
Thank you so much for this descriptive answer, sir. Sir, on the same lines, we have our student from biotechnology, Sakshi Gayakwad, who is asking, sir, during the current pandemic, how can we keep ourselves mentally healthy and stable?
Well, this is again somewhat the same theme, whether it's the pandemic or not. But ultimately, if your life is grounded, if you have some sense of purpose, if you have a passion, if you have those qualities, some of those qualities I talked about that Kamble has, you're automatically, you can't tell the difference between being in pandemic or out of pandemic. I mean, I can tell you from me, I begin my day at 5:30 in the morning, and by 6 o'clock, I'm here at this computer. And I write from 6 to 12 every day, even on Sunday. And I've been doing it for 25 years. And it doesn't feel like work. That's the best quality. That if your work doesn't feel like work, you know, when it doesn't feel like work, then time gets distorted. You say, oh my God, it's 6 o'clock. I thought it was only 4. So 2 hours you've lost. Those 2 hours you were absorbed. So that time gets distorted. So the answer is the same answer, whether we are in pandemic or not in pandemic, to give ourselves some purpose in our life.
Wonderfully said, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, there is somebody who does not want to disclose his or her name, but the question goes like, how to overcome the challenges of discrimination in the society?
A good question. I think that the answer is really that if you are focused on your work, if you, like Kamble, who gets absorbed in his work, makes it fun, you know, then nobody can really disturb you. That, of course, it's very wrong. We are a very unequal society, and I am a great supporter of Dalits and the Dalit movement. But I'm not for reservations, I must tell you. There are better ways to solve the problem of caste. But we are a caste society, and so discrimination is very common. All I can say, the answer is the answer that Kamble will give you. And that is just enjoy your work. Ignore, don't pay attention to what others are saying. You know, you do your job, you be helpful, automatically people will, you know, they say you smile at the world smiles back at you. So Kamble was giving coffee, tea to everybody. And he loved everyone, he won everybody's heart because of that.
Yes. Sir, in the frame of time, I will take this as a last question from Sushil, our student from SOM post-graduation. Sir, in our nation, spirituality is a buzzword, but very little is being talked about scientific temper. Despite of the fact that developing scientific temper is amongst our fundamental duties as per the Constitution, deprived principles, what should state do to develop scientific temper amongst the citizens?
I think the starting point again, education. You know, of course, I was lucky in my case when I went to Harvard because I was suddenly exposed to so many subjects. And so that scientific temper comes from curiosity. Again, that childlike curiosity, which gets killed as we grow older. And so the scientific temper is to ask questions, not to give answers. Ask questions. You keep asking. That's what a scientist does. He keeps asking questions. And a society, a university, if MIT, World Peace University, encourages questioning, if every class is a question and answer, not a professor giving a lecture, but the other way. That was the most important difference I found between universities in America or in the West than in India. And in India, we have one, Ashoka University, which encourages the same kind of thing. So I would just say that that's the answer. To encourage the scientific temper is to encourage curiosity. Now, I'm happy to say the new education policy talks about this. It speaks against rote learning, speaking like a parrot, reproducing like a parrot on an exam. Ask questions. That is the secret of instilling the scientific temper.
Thank you so much for your encouraging thoughts, sir. Now, I request Dr. Akshay Baheti, Head, School of Pharmacy, MIT World Peace University, to propose vote of thanks.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Aarti. Am I audible, Dr. Aarti?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. A very good evening and namaskar to one and all. On behalf of MIT World Peace University, I, Dr. Akshay Baheti, take this opportunity to thank each one of you for attending today's enlightening talk on making a life versus making a living. In the webinar series, today's COVID challenge and tomorrow's leadership opportunity. Honorable Gurucharan Das ji, I would like to express my deep gratitude to you for your thought-provoking session. What a coincidence, sir, that your name has a shadow of word Guru. You explained the meaning of Guru, but you are the foremost Guru for many of us. Sir, you rightly mentioned that don't get so busy making a living that you forget to have a life. Many of us are trapped in the mindsets of focusing on making a living for survival and working really hard to make lots of money. Most of us, we keep working till the age of 70, 75, and we forget to enjoy life. We forget to nurture our hobbies, as you mentioned. Without happiness, passion, and joy, many people keep working, which is just making a living, as you rightly mentioned. So it is important to focus on making a life, as you mentioned, which is built on the foundation of love, passion, joy, fulfillment, and happiness. So we understand that making a life is all about surrounding us with the people who love us. It's about enjoying every day and every moment of life. It's about making memories. And attitude should be infectious in the positive way, the way Mr. Kamble had. It was really nice story to listen about the Kamble, sir, and we are surely find the Kambles in our organization also. Thank you very much, sir, for your highly thought-provoking session. Thank you, sir. I thank father of MIT WPU family, ambassador and torch bearer of World Peace and UNESCO chairholder, Honorable Dr. Vishwanath Karad, sir, founder, MITES MIT Pune, and President, MIT World Peace University, for his blessings and guidance. I thank a young dynamic leader who is a perfect blend of education and national spirit, Shri Rahulji Karad, sir, Managing Trustee and Executive President, MITES MIT Pune, Executive President, MIT World Peace University, for his guidance and motivation for organizing this webinar series. Thank you, sir. I thank Honorable Dr. Ravi Chitnis, sir, Acting Vice Chancellor, MIT World Peace University, Pro Vice Chancellor, Honorable Milind Pandey, sir, and Dr. Prashant Dave, Registrar, MIT WPU, for their support and guidance and motivation. I thank all deans, directors, HOS, HODs, teaching and non-teaching staff members of MIT WPU family for attending and participating in today's session. I thank media and press, IR team, technical team, publicity team for their support. I also thank Aarti Shastri for nice coordination of this session. Once again, thank you everyone who has directly and indirectly helped us to organize this session. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Aarti.
Thank you very much, Baheti sir. Friends, we are coming to an end of this very descriptive and illustrated session on making living over making life. Here, I would request everyone to raise in their chairs for national anthem, and I request technical team to please start with the national anthem. Thank you, team. I request technical team to end the session as we have come to the conclusion of the session. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you.